For roll call?
Yeah.
We are live.
Okay, welcome everybody to this Technology Committee meeting. I'll ask Pam to call the roll.
Thank you. Committee Chair Yang.
Here.
Regent Gway.
Present.
Regent Jappanen.
Present.
Regent Santiago.
Present.
Committee Chair Yang, you have a quorum.
Thank you. I'd like to call for a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved. Oh, sorry.
Second.
Second.
Thanks. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries and the agenda is adopted. First item, to approve meeting minutes from April 24th. I know there was a quick modification regarding Marty, but otherwise I think they're good to go. So can I call for a motion to approve?
That adjustment got made because I was going to actually bring that up, that Marty was actually present.
Yes.
That is correct. The correction has been made on the official minutes, both for last month in April, as well as the one that has been posted online for this meeting.
Excellent. Good. So can I call for a motion to adopt those revised minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Thank you. We approve those meeting minutes.
Can I?
Okay.
Pam Lloyd just joined us for your.
Sorry, I'll circle back with you. No problem. Good morning. I apologize for being late.
No problem. No problem. Just in time for the start of business. So first order of business is announcement regarding cyber. I have a prepared statement. I'm just going to read this and then Pam can distribute with the meeting notes in verbatim. Okay. I want to use this opportunity to announce a request from the Technology Committee to create and implement an accelerated process to address major issues in cybersecurity, starting with CT State. We face significant risks from security threats in the digital environment. We rely heavily on technology for both our academic and administrative systems, and we simply cannot afford disruptions. Additionally, we are entrusted with sensitive and personal information, including student records, financial data, and research information that we must protect under law and regulation. It is for this reason that we asked our Chief Information Officer and Chief Information Security Officer to present a plan that accelerates addressing our largest cybersecurity issues following a least privileged access approach, starting with CT State. I'm asking that all administrators, faculty, and staff to have patience with the implementation of this plan, which should begin this summer. This implementation will involve hard choices, and by design, not everyone will have the same access as they do today. There will be issues and there will be inconveniences and slowdowns. However, this committee and the board are clear that the threats represented by our current cyber readiness must be addressed with the highest priority. Also note that while we are a public institution, much of this work by necessity must happen in executive session due to its security nature. This committee is asking for metrics to measure our progress here that can be shared publicly. This is also so that we are not simply implementing policy for policy's sake, but instead can measurably improve. Finally, cybersecurity is not just a technology priority. It is an enterprise-wide priority, and executives and managers must take ownership of the protection of their own systems and data. It is critical that non-IT executives and managers adhere to our policies, and the board in this committee is tasking everyone in our organization to be part of this effort. Okay. So again, Pam, I sent this to you so you can distribute this verbatim, and I thank everyone for their work so far. The major item for discussion before we go to executive session is regarding establishing future committee work. I have taken some thought with this, and other committee members have chimed in on some ideas. And so I'm just going to go through just some of these items and then we can discuss them together. My intent is not for us to go and review anything today on the fly, but instead for Jim, Peter, and Lloyd to be prepared to have these items discussed in the future. So the largest item on here, the first item on here is regarding the larger spends in the system. So this is part of our charter. It is part of our understanding to be good stewards of both our budget and in terms of our technology guidance of the system. So What I propose here, and this is open for discussion amongst our committee members, is a review of the, let's say, arbitrarily speaking, 10 largest spends. Maybe we expand that to be spends above X number, but we can start with the largest ones throughout our system and look at that in terms of reviewing risks. Is there any discussion on that? Everyone down with that? Okay, good. Lloyd and team, I assume this is something that can be put together relatively easily and we can have that discussion next meeting. Okay, great. Cool. That was an easy one. Next one as well. We are focusing on cyber as per the statement, and we all agree that's the right thing to do. However, certainly I have been the recipient of some feedback, and I'm sure all of us have at different times from different members of our CSU family about issues within technology. And I want everyone to understand publicly that this is a proper forum for that escalation. It is not the first escalation, let's be clear. That does not make any sense. However, this committee is tasked with oversight over those issues. So the next item I propose is for Jim, you and your team to put together a list of the large non-cyber issues, since we've already reviewed those in executive session, the non-cyber issues that have been surfaced. And again, we can start with an arbitrary number here. And I know you've got ticketing systems and things like this to measure those. So again, I assume this is relatively straightforward for us to put together. I would just hope that, my hope is that we don't spend time solutioning this. That's not what's the goal here. The goal here is that we are double checking that these issues are being escalated and that they are being worked on and that we agree with the prioritization. Everyone good with that? All right. Okay, relatively straightforward. And again, I think by the next meeting, if you could have something distributed, that then we can discuss in this public session. Okay.
My only request, Chairman Yang, is that we get the information at least 48 hours before the meeting so that we can make our time here effective. You know, we've been good about keeping on time with the meetings, which I greatly appreciate. But in order to do that and have some forward progress, getting the information at least 2 days ahead of time is critical. More than that's even better. But
Lloyd.
Yes, Regent Santiago, thank you. I'm going to take the blame for this one. I've been out of town this weekend, and I kind of held up Jim and Peter when they were ready, but I was not. So my fault. Won't happen
No
again.
worries. Let's make it a goal, frankly, to go even beyond that if we can. 72 hours would be great. And again, this is something we're just starting here. So we are establishing these processes. So let's make that a goal. Pam?
Thank you, Committee Chair Yang. The goal is our next scheduled meeting for this group is June the 12th, which is a Wednesday. It is my hope and aspiration to have weekend reading for this group in preparation for that meeting. So target approved and documents to be shared on June the 7th for weekend reading, to be posted publicly on Monday, June the 10th.
Great.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, so now some more items that may be more up to debate, whether we want to do them now or we want to deal with them later. So one of these items goes in hand with regards towards AI policy. So, some of you may be aware that, all of you are aware that there's various different degrees of AI policy that were attempted to be passed by the legislature. There was a round that passed previously that applied to state agencies, which we are not one. But we have been asked to abide by that. And there are also a newer round, I think, that did not pass this term. That was around protections. And again, look, this board, I think this committee and this board is being tasked with leading the thinking on this. And certainly it is paramount for us, especially given the rapidly changing environment here, that we are ensuring the protection of our students, as well as that we are ensuring that we are protecting faculty rights, IP, et cetera, et cetera. So I think one thing that I would propose is an analysis of whatever existing policies are there. I think they are relatively sparse, just from my own asking around to see what's out there in our system, which is fine. But then for, again, the staff to make a proposal that synthesizes together some of the elements that exist from the items I just cited prior, as well as our own ideas. And again, I don't think we can draft this. I think this is more of a let's bullet point some things that we can put into a potential policy and have that discussed in the end in this public forum so that we can be transparent to people and around. And again, for this one, I think no matter what we come up with, we also need to be circulating this and making sure that we get the buy-in from the system CIOs of our CSUs, as well as other important stakeholders. So this is not something that's going to be instantly done, but I think the process can start with the staff taking a look at what policies they can find, and just coming out with some important bullets. And frankly, anyone else, if I've spoken with Senator Maroney prior a couple of times, who attempted to propose AI legislation this term, as well as others. And I'm sure Ari, in your travails, you run across this a lot. And Sophia, I know it's a personal interest of yours, and Marty as well. So we've all got great ideas. Let's just put those on paper, and then use let's say 10 minutes of our next session publicly just to have some discussion. We good? Lloyd?
Yes, thank you, Regent Yang. One of the concerns, not concerns, but one of the things I think we need to consider when we're thinking about AI policy is that there's going to be sort of an administrative aspect to AI as well as an academic aspect. And the academic aspect is going to have to be driven by the faculty. But as it relates to cybersecurity, clearly that's going to be an umbrella element that will have to be considered as we think about AI. But we want to make sure that the faculty know that they have purview over, how AI will be used in the classroom in research, et cetera.
Right. Now, that's a very good point here. And just to state on the record that we're not talking about that. We know we're not talking about any rules other than cybersecurity, which, again, there are certain things that are very important here that we need to uphold, procurement processes, these kinds of things, which are there for a very good reason. But no, we're not talking about mandating and in any way changing or influencing what happens within the classroom, which is, of course, the purview of the faculty. Ari?
Yeah, I mean, I just now it's going to be redundant what I was going to say, but I agree with everything that you just said, and I think from my perspective, what's really important is that whatever we're doing, I absolutely encourage and would love to see wherever we can have academic research and education and experimentation relative to AI. I'm all for it, big supporter. What needs to be clear and is that experimentation needs to be fully segmented from any of the operational administrative network of the campus. And I think the work we're doing on cyber, which I think we'll cover again, sort of the updates in executive session because of the sensitive nature of it. I just want to make sure that stuff is done, in particular, some of the access control items, before we start experimenting with things that may have unintended consequences. So I think we're all in violent agreement on that, but just to restate the 3 points, which are supportive of all the academic work on it. 2, that should be cleanly and clearly segmented from any of the administrative network. And 3, just highlights the critical need of the least privileged access controls being in place so that we don't inadvertently violate number 2.
Very good points. Very good points. Anyone else have further discussion? Okay. So let's just put this again as a to-do for us to all get some bullet point items, and again for the staff to do some more surveying of what may be there. And again, we are far from implementing any policy or even proposing any policy. This is really just a very transparent way to say that we're going to have this discussion in public about what we think needs to go in there. And again, our focus is the focus of the administration, the system office, protecting students, et cetera. Not talking about what's going on inside the classrooms. That which is one thing being said, though, the data protection aspect of this is, irrespective of AI, just honestly, right? So, AI is just another way that we just make sure that we're protecting data. So, okay. Next item, and again, we will not get to all of this in our next meeting, is we've previously taken a look, all of us have taken a look at some of the IT policies. To say that some of these are out of date would be generous, especially they would be out of date in any sense based upon the years in which these were passed for technology. Some of these are extremely out of date. So I propose that we look to ask the staff to do some revisions to some of these policies, specifically IT 004. Now, one thing I think which is important, maybe it's worth like a few minute discussion here, right? Which is that, in any complex system, any complex environment, there's an environment of multiple systems, which this one is, and multiple organizations, we need to be very concerned about the compliance and adherence to our policies. It is not our intent, it should never be anyone's intent to create policies that just sit on the shelf that no one cares about, right? And to that end, I think I propose that we review all of the policies that are IT, all of them, but especially IT 004, which is quite technical in nature, quite detailed in nature, and therefore, in my mind, not compliable by most people reading it, right? And that's a big problem. So, the less is more in a lot of these cases, right? And I do understand that, these things are in training materials for employees, et cetera, but still, they get a big fat handbook of stuff that they need to comply by, right? And, we need to be very clear that we don't want to use the hammer when you can use, lesser tools or more persuasive tools, because that's how we're going to get adherence. And so I think we can start with taking that approach. And so I would propose that we ask the staff to take an approach to really, from first principles, relook at what's in IT 004, which, by the way, has a lot of good content. And this is just, I personally take a look at it, so it's in my mind, has a lot of good content, but again, is presented in a way that to me is just, frankly, impossible for the average person to comprehend and then comply, because it makes it very difficult to say, how does this affect my day-to-day work, right? So that's what I propose. Anyone have any other, thoughts on that?
Ted, can you just repeat the specific proposal? I don't think I quite followed it 100%.
Yeah, to have the staff take a look at all of the IT proposals, but specifically with 004, which is in my mind incredibly egregious, with a fresh set of eyes, basically to rewrite, to say what is the intent of this policy, and then rewrite it both up to date with, things have changed in terms of policies, and some of these things are changing as we speak with regards towards our cybersecurity, but with a mind towards saying, how can we make this plain language and therefore adherable for the casual user?
So just to repeat back, you're asking for a review of all the policies with a goal to make them appropriate and adherable. Totally makes sense. I just want to make sure at some point, that we got a lot of activities. I just want to make sure that we're prioritizing and making sure that we're not overburdening, which maybe we are, maybe we aren't. But I just, having done many policy reviews, or well, maybe not personally done a lot of them, but overseen many of them, that could be a very daunting task. So
completely agree. We're teeing up stuff for many meetings down the road.
got it.
This is definitely, I don't even know if we're gonna be able to get to this one to start the next meeting, but I just want to kind of set the calendar here for the next 6 meetings.
So the one thing I would just suggest is something to make sure, something that can maybe move some progress on this, Ted, but also is like, as we're working on some of the cybersecurity items that we're working on, there may be specific policies that are linked back to those technical items that we're working on. Maybe an opportunity to pull those forward, so that as we're creating these new access controls and so forth, that we're bringing the policies and the technical worlds together. It's my suggestion we could consider as we're moving forward.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Because having been through this, having no policy is bad. Having a policy and then creating a system that totally doesn't adhere to it's actually worse. So I
Absolutely.
think if we can make sure that we're doing things that are aligned to the policies, or maybe more importantly, designing the right systems and making the policies conform to that.
Absolutely. Jim and Peter, is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good. And the last proposal I would have is that I do know the system CIOs and Jim do get together kind of somewhat frequently. I don't know, is it quarterly?
Bi-weekly.
But okay, so I guess a lot more frequently.
Right.
But I think at some point in the future, and this probably in the fall, invite them to come and join this meeting. I mean, you should invite them in general. I mean, anyone can attend this meeting, of course. But more specifically, so that we can get to know those system CIOs, especially since we're about to have some change, at least in Southern. You know, it'd be good for certainly people who are stepping into that role, the persons who step into Dennis's shoes there, to meet everybody, right? And then to us to understand that. And again, that's more. I have no agenda on that. Just that we do acknowledge that there are system CIOs that are tasked with a lot of the things that are working on here, and we should be all working together. So Jim, maybe we can just talk offline about what you think would be an appropriate time for us to do that.
Yeah, no problem. We're also losing the Eastern CIO as well, so Southern and Eastern will be retiring.
So that's confirmed. Okay, well, so that is even more strongly then that the people who are going to be sitting into it, I assume there'll be interims taking over when they do searches or what have you, so that those people interface with us. Good. And that's what I have. Are there any other items that people want to put into our things we should be working on list? No? Okay. Like I said, there's enough here for the next few meetings, so there's no rush. And again, cyber is still our priority. But I think that there are definitely other things that we can be looking on. We can walk and chew gum a little bit. And certainly there are concerns that other people have surfaced to me and again to others on this committee that I know are important. And I want people to know that we're listening. We're not just saying, hey, don't talk to us until we're done with cyber. Cyber is never ending, frankly. But this sprint is critical. Okay. If anyone have any other items before we go into executive session? Okay. So before I call for a motion to move to executive session, let me state that the committee will move to executive session for the purpose of discussing matters under Connecticut General Statute 1-200-6C. No votes will be taken in executive session. Additionally, there will be no discussion, action, or votes by the committee following executive session. The only action following executive session will be a declaration of adjournment by me. Therefore, allow me to call for a motion to move to executive session for the purposes I have described and to adjourn by declaration of the committee chair, me, when that discussion in executive session concludes. Can I have a motion?
Motion moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Please say aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. The open portion of our meeting has concluded.
Committee Chair Yang, could you announce who from staff you would like to join you in executive session?
Yes, I ask that the CIO, CISO, and CFO please join us.
Thank you. Your live stream has stopped.